You are listening to Scribble Talk, a podcast for bid and proposal professionals. My name is Bhaskar Sundram, and with my co-host,
Ashley Case,
we will be sitting down with our industry veterans to share their stories, listen to their career, and learn how to make an impact in the industry.
Today's guest is Brenda Crist. Brenda has 25 years of experience providing capture, proposal, and program management support for the information technology companies serving the federal market. She is currently the vice president at the Lohfeld Consulting Group. Prior to becoming a full-time proposal professional, Brenda served as the group manager for OAO Corporation and project manager for Harris Corporation. She has provided on-site system application and network management solutions for civilian and military clients. She holds a master's degree in public administration from American University. She is certified at the professional level from the Association of Proposal Management Professionals and has delivered APMP certification training to hundreds of students since 2011. She is a fellow of the Association of Proposal Management Professionals and former Chapter Chairperson of the Year. Welcome, Brenda, to Scribble Talk. Great to have you with us.
Well, thank you.
So Brenda, we're going to start out asking kind of about where you're from, where you were born, where you went to school.
Okay. I was born in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And I went to school in Maryland. And I went to university at American University, where I did a 5-year program to get a master's degree in public administration.
Oh, very cool. So was your first job in public administration?
Oh, no. My first job was, I was probably about 6 years old. My father owned a number of local businesses. I guess the foremost would be he had bought a Safeway. So he had a grocery store, among other things. And so I started working at a very early age. In addition, to helping out at the store, we would help my mom. We do payroll, and we would do get things together for the accountant, and big bank deposits. So at a very young age, I learned about business.
Oh my goodness! So when did you eventually enter the proposal world?
Not until a lot later. I actually had a whole career before I entered the proposal field, which was, since I live in Washington, D.C. area, for the first half of my career, I was actually doing direct charge work for the government, whether it be technical writing, technical communications, SAS programming, a whole bunch of different things, whatever I could do to be a direct charge. And finally, I became a task manager. And then after that, I became a project manager. And while I was doing direct charge work, they'd ask me to do my resume. They'd ask me to write different, mini sections, but never an entire proposal. So I guess it was probably in the early 90s, mid 90s, I became a project manager. And I had about 25 people on my project. And I was only there about 4 months when my vice president came to me and said, "Oh, by the way, your RFP dropped and your proposal's due in a month." And I'm going, "What?" I didn't sign up for this. So, and then everybody who was working with me, they were a little bit younger. And so the company really didn't give us a lot of help. So we had to put this proposal together on our own. And it was a recompete. So everybody's job was on the line. And I took this rather personally because if we didn't win, most cases we'd be out of a job.
Yeah.
So I learned how to write proposals really fast.
Oh my goodness. What an interesting entry into the field. And it was, so much was on the line.
Yes. I felt, that is my job, of course, on the line, but everybody who works for me too. So I had to make sure it was really good. And we did win.
Oh, well, that's always good to hear. So did you go more into proposals after that, or did you stay on that program for a while and then full-time later into proposals?
Actually, it's very interesting. I was probably maybe a year or two after that. And my company decided to make a move. And they moved to a place that was probably about 30 miles from where I lived. And I said, wow, I had a young daughter at that time. I said, I can't make that move. Childcare just would not permit it. So I'm going to have to find another job. And it was around Christmas time. And so I applied to a company that was relatively close to my house and for a project manager role. And so it happened to be the company where Bob Lohfeld was the senior vice president, the man who I work for right now at Lohfeld Consulting Group. And they had just won a major contract with the government with the General Services Administration, which would allow them to bid anywhere. So they needed a person that had very specific requirements according to the contract. They needed someone who had managed at least 25 people, had a master's degree, and had 10 years or so of experience in the field. And it was Christmas time, and you can imagine their applicant pool was pretty slim. So they brought me in there, and I described my credentials. I was a little bit nervous, and on Christmas Eve, I got the job offer. And so with that move to a group manager, I think they thought they could get rid of me if I didn't work out, but it all worked out well. And so I had a quota. And I had to not only manage all of my projects and make sure they did well technically, but I also had to bring new business into the company. And so I started writing proposals on a regular basis. And I must admit, Bob Lohfeld was a great teacher.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine. So from there, did you go to work for Lohfeld, or did you do proposals for another company before?
Well, I worked for him at OEO Corporation for about 6 years or so. So I was doing full-time management, full-time proposals, and learned a lot from my mentors there. Including Maury Sweeten. He also had worked for Lohfeld Consulting, a wonderful guy. And so I learned a lot of the ropes really quickly. Like I remember sitting in one management meeting where it's a program manager or group manager, you had to bring forth to Bob, telling him about everything that you wanted to bid. And I remember one fellow said, here's my list of projects that I'm going to be working on as capture manager. And I'm tracking them all. And Bob said, boom, you are not tracking them. You will lose them all. You will be in front of them. You will influence them. Just things like that. It's just if you don't know you, and if the customer doesn't know you and you don't know the customer intimately, then you have lost the proposal. And, other gems like that, we will all, learn from Hard Knocks. But after I left OAO, I did go back to Harris Corporation, where I decided to change. I decided, I was managing 150 people, and I said, the only person I really want to manage is me. So I said, and I love to write proposals. So, no one else would really give me a chance, but the people back at Harris had known me for many years, and they were willing to take a chance. And so I kind of made that segue from full-time, direct charge work to proposals. And, so it was a great experience there. And, I eventually went to work for another small business before I went to work for Lohfeld Consulting. But at that time, I was at the next small business. It was closer to my house. And I was in a proposal, and we did not have a solution, 100% solution. We only had a 75% solution to do this proposal. And it was just, we were working day and night for like a month. And finally, right after the red team recovery, and we've been worked really hard, the executives decided we're going to no bid. And I said to myself, I'm out of here. You can't see me all along. And I called up Bob, and I said, who I had seen at other professional events, and I said, would you give me a reference? I'd really like to find a new job. And he goes, no, I'm not going to give you a reference. You're going to come to work for me. And I said, done. And that was, more than 12 years ago. And I've been with Lohfeld Consulting ever since.
That's amazing. So over the years, I'm sure that you've encountered a bunch of different interesting proposal and capture efforts. Do you have any that stick out in your mind?
Yes, I have one that sticks out in my mind, and it's really an anomaly. Every day we go in and we work for major systems integrators doing fantastic work, interesting work. But the one that really sticks in my mind is not in that ilk at all. A lot of people call Lohfeld Consulting, and one of our customers happened to be a factory in Baltimore, and it was kind of very working class area of Baltimore. And these people had run a factory, had to do with bottling and things like that. And I guess the market wasn't there anymore. And they had changed their whole line of manufacturing into, military instruments and things like that. And so it was huge. And it was really kind of like these guys had this factory, they were machinists, this is pretty much a family-owned business. And they had really kind of staked their livelihood on being able to change and sell to the government. And they, brought me in to write their first proposal with them. And I appreciated them so much. These guys, like I say, they were union guys, they're mostly machinists, but hey, their jobs are on the line. And so I've never had any team so dedicated to trying to write the best proposal, despite the fact they did not have this was not their first line of work. And just so dedicated to trying to do it. So that one really sticks out in my mind.
Yeah, definitely. Those ones where, so much is on the line and you have a team that's so great to work with and they just really want it that bad. Sort of similar to kind of the first one you mentioned where it was a recompete and all the jobs were on the line. And so I'm sure that really impacted how hard everyone worked.
I think that really does when, especially when you are direct charge and things like that, it's either make it or break it. So it's amazing what you can do under those circumstances.
Absolutely. So before we move on to dig deeper into kind of your experience, we're curious 3 things that not many people would know about you.
Okay, well, the first thing is I love to learn. That has to be number one. It's like right after I finished my master's degree, I went back to the University of Maryland and took, programming courses and things like that. And probably about midway into my career, I stopped, and took a bunch of telecommunications and networking courses from Capital Technical University. So I love to learn. Every morning I get up and I will listen to some type of podcast or like a Blink app of the executive summaries of books and decide which ones I like, and maybe we'll go dig deeper, maybe take a Linda course, something like that. So I try to make learning, part of my everyday life. So that's one major thing I like to do. And then, I like to gardening. I like to do golf. I just like so many interests. So that's about it, I think.
That's amazing. So golf and learning. And then I'm sure, people who work with you as a consultant, they may not have never known that, you started out as, on the programs and really understand the operational impacts of the proposals.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's really helped too, is if you've been on the ground and working with customers for a long time, you kind of understand them. And what's really interesting is I worked as a contractor my entire professional career, just about. And however, I had a daughter who went over to the dark side, and she is actually a government contracting officer's representative. So I thought that was pretty funny instead of a contractor.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so I'm sure you guys share war stories, and it helps to really understand things directly from a contracting officer's perspective, I'm sure.
Well, actually, it's interesting. It's actually interesting because we actually don't too much. because, with the government, you have to really maintain a certain wall. So I never would bid on anything for her agency. Mm-hmm. So while we do talk a lot, like a general topics, we really try to help her as a government person by maintaining a wall, make sure we never talk about anything proprietary, never anything dealing with her agency.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. You have to maintain those boundaries and make sure there's no conflicts of interest and things of that nature. So it's good to hear that you guys are careful. But yeah, talking
Very
around
careful,
in generalities and things like that, great information sharing.
Yeah.
So you've trained hundreds of professionals on APMP certifications over the years. Do you have any memorable training experiences?
I think, maybe when I learned to train was interesting. I had to go over, and I was very, very fortunate to be able to train. Kathy Day showed me how to, become a trainer. So that was really memorable. And I got to observe her teach a class. And and it was funny, though. We went over to London. She's a master at what she does. She's very, very good. And she made the mistake of leaving me in charge. And she says, just make sure there's water at the desk, right? Something very simple task, And they got the water put down there. And I said, but where's the ice for the water? Because water is all warm. And apparently they did not do that. So I was going up the echelon asking for ice. And apparently that's just really not done there. So I felt pretty embarrassed. And after that, I kind of just sat down there and kept my mouth shut and listened to her teach. That was like one of my most memorable ones. But I guess my first webinar, we used to do this live in person all the time. And now with COVID, and also too, many chapters like to pile on when you do the teaching. So, doing it being webinars is a little bit different because I have to kind of hear myself talk for a couple of hours, I try to encourage interaction. But just along the way, so many people who have wanted to get basically that street cred, to say, I have gone through, I've educated myself, I have gotten this certification and really tried to improve their career and grow along the way.
Yes, definitely. The APMP certifications have grown, and they're really helping to establish credibility with professionals. So it's so great to be a part of that.
Yeah, when I first started in proposals, I wish I had that certification had been available to me, because I would have probably felt I had a little bit more authority in speaking to the executives if I had that credential.
Oh, absolutely. So your role at Lohfeld, has it evolved and changed over the years?
Oh yeah, it's changed as the business changed. We certainly, do. We didn't start out doing training. Now we do a lot of training. Certainly the customers that we are working with right now, and we used to come in and kind of just help with proposals. Now, in some cases, we have gone in and kind of even really become a mainstay of their proposal shops and working with executives. That's changed. Of course, everything when we first started was on premise, but now I can tell you, since probably about, at least for me last year, everything is virtual. More and more people are working virtually, and so while I was probably the last adopter in Lohfeld, most everyone is working virtually. In fact, our company works virtually. So wow. I just think that's the way to go.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You have to definitely change with the times, and especially during COVID, it's really making people realize how effective you can be virtually and finding out those ways to really make things more effective and more efficient.
Yeah, actually, I think we're just as effective, working virtually as we are on site.
Absolutely.
I find no difference.
So when did you first join APMP as a member?
Probably around, I want to say 2002. I joined the National Capital Area Chapter. And I was very fortunate because I happened to work in a building for Harris Corporation. It was probably only less than a mile away from where they met.
Oh,
so,
wow.
At that point, everybody, we had these dinners every month and got a lot out of them. And I was really excited to be talking to people in the profession.
Yeah. That's very cool. And did you eventually, were you on the board or anything like that with NCA?
I was the president. I served in various capacities. For many years, I helped run the annual conference. And from there, I became vice president. And from there, I became president.
Wow. So any fond memories in those roles?
Yeah, I think of course, all the people, that's number one. But number two would be bringing certification program to the NCA chapter and really trying to promote it in the Washington, D.C. area. I think that was really beneficial, and seeing more and more companies trying to hire people, if they're going to hire a proposal professional, one with a certification, at least at the foundation level.
Yeah,
so that
absolutely.
was definitely one of the most memorable. And then trying new things. I think the way people like to meet and greet, over this profession changes. And I think you have to be flexible and adaptable to meet the needs of the people in your chapter.
Absolutely.
And then since NCA, I went on and joined a chapter closer to my house, which is the Chesapeake chapter. And I have been the program chair there for the past 2.5 years.
Wow. And
that has been really rewarding. I think what's interesting about this chapter is that the APMP International gives a rebate to chapters based on the number of members. So you'll get a small check, each quarter. But what we try to do is we try to take most of that money, like 80% of it, and invest it back into the membership. And that's either through luncheons that we have, but they're free of charge. You come to them, we'll have a program, scholarships to APMP events, like the NCA Mid-Atlantic Conference, or other books, things like that, memberships. So we really try to invest back in our members, everything that we get from APMP.
Oh, that's amazing. So I understand that you may have worked alongside Chris Simmons in APMP in some capacity.
Yes. He was the vice president when I was the president, and Chris was just fantastic. He was really helpful in us raising the bar of membership, raising the number of members to where the first time that we had over 1,000 members.
Wow.
And we just worked together well. And we used to meet before every meeting just to discuss things, to make sure everything was going well. So he's a terrific partner.
Sounds like it. Many fond memories with APMP. So you talked about the NCA MAC. What about BidCon? Any fond memories of attending BidCon, or maybe your first time participating?
Oh, wow. I think my very first time participating was probably in Savannah around 2007.
Wow.
I finally got to go to a big con and just, presenting several times. I think my most memorable one was probably Denver, where I got Chapter Chair of the Year. I think that was really a lot of fun. And I became a fellow that year too.
Wow. That's amazing.
And then I had to present right after that. And I was like, oh, I'm so happy. Now I have to present. And I said, I'm a bit nervous, but it went off okay.
I'm sure it did. So you've also participated in the certifications. Obviously, your training. So you've gone through all the certification. Can you share your certification journey with us?
Well, I was it was funny. I first took the certification class. I guess it was a prototype in 2006, and Tony Birch taught it. He was fantastic. But for some reason, I just didn't take the exam after that. And it kind of worried me. And finally, in 2009, I said, this is becoming more popular. I'm just going to sit down there and take the test. So I took the test, and I was so enthusiastic after I passed. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do practitioner. So, in my enthusiasm, I did practitioner in September of 2006. Then I got my practitioner. Then I said, wait a minute, I'm going to get professional. I've been doing this for a really long time. And so by December, I had gotten the professional. So I went, it's unusual. I went right through it that way.
Yeah, wow.
So I was very enthusiastic about it. And then I started training 2 years later.
Yeah, it's amazing. So what has made you laugh or smile recently?
Laugh or smile recently. You know what? My sister-in-law is a humorist and a stand-up comedian, and every day she comes out. She has at lunch time. She has jokes that she sends out and things like that. So today's was, they asked little kids, where do babies come from? So it was hilarious. It was something from Jimmy Kimmel. It was the tape, but she always has these. She's just hilarious. So every day at lunch or a call from her, that's really what makes me laugh. About the profession, though, what makes me laugh is sometimes some unrealistic expectations. I kind of laugh to myself about, yes, we're going to have red team by Thursday. So, and I just have to say, after I laugh, I said, okay, hold on, that's really not going to happen. So if you want something, or when a bid comes in and there has been no capture done, write the proposal. No. You might as well know that at this time. It's not going to happen.
Those definitely do make you laugh. And if you don't laugh at them, you're just going to be frustrated, right?
Yes.
All right. So I think we're ready for our surprise rapid fire questions round.
Oh my gosh. All right.
That was amazing, Brenda. Such a fun episode so far. Let's continue the same momentum here. So, what song do you sing only when you're alone, and what memory does it bring?
What song do I think of when I'm alone? What memory does it bring? Mm-hmm. I would have to say probably just something simple like Amazing Grace, and what a humbling song that is. And if I'm alone and I think I'm rather proud of myself and I think of that song, and it kind of brings you back down to earth.
Oh, that's nice. So what internet site do you surf to the most?
Probably Blinkist. It's an app I have, and it is where all my books come on. You have executive summaries of books, and then you can read that and then drill down on what books that you really want to read later, or if I'm listening, Audible.
Yes, I think, because you already mentioned you are passionate about learning, and I can imagine Blinkist and Audible are amazing. I also use something called Storytel. It's also very good. So maybe
okay.
Add one more. So
great.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I would probably be a nursery school teacher. Because I love little kids. They're always so surprising, and everything is new to them when they learn it. So I would definitely be a nursery school teacher.
Oh. So what childish things do you still do as an adult?
I think it would probably be baking. My grandmother taught me how to bake. She was a fantastic baker. And we make little things like, cookies with cutouts and things like that. And I still like to do that. So I would say probably that would be my childish thing I like to do.
Oh, that's amazing. So if you could switch bodies with a certain celebrity, who would it be and why?
Ooh. I'm not sure. Maybe someone who is super fit, like a trainer, a celebrity trainer, because it would be nice to know, if you're in that great a physical shape or some type of Olympian to know what that feels like. So maybe an Olympian.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's very interesting. So do you train yourself, Brenda, frequently or?
Not as much. No, I don't. I mean, I like to play golf. I like to go on walks, but I would not consider myself not near a professional athlete.
So when you are having a bad day, what do you do to make yourself feel better?
Get up and take a walk. I get up. If I'm having a really bad day, I kind of remove myself from the situation. I'll go out and I'll take a walk around the neighborhood. I'll turn on one of my podcasts and take myself away from it, and usually feel much better afterwards. Just kind of get away from it for a minute.
If you could be anywhere else right now, where would it be?
If I could play any place, where would I be? Mm-hmm. Was that the question?
That's right, yeah.
Oh, yeah, Paris. I would go to Paris. I just love that city. It's beautiful. There's so much to see and so much to do and so much food to eat. I'd be there in a heartbeat.
Oh, that's amazing. So true, so true. I think, Ashley, Paris is top of your agenda as well, right?
Absolutely.
You like that too? Okay, so we're kindred spirits. I love it.
So yes, are you a morning person or a night person?
Usually I get more done in the morning, but I'm just not an afternoon person. I like early in the morning, or, where I can get work done, or sometimes even late at night when the house is quiet and I can do work too. So I would say both.
Oh, that's very good, because I'm very late night person. So, but morning is always a struggle for me. But that's good. That's very good. So, what's your best subject in school, Brenda?
Excuse me. What's my best subject
in the school?
Oh, in school, what was my best subject in school? English, I would say. I like to, I like to read. I like to read literature. We had, not in addition to, grammar, English, we had journalism and we had speech in school. So they really tried to give us a diverse array of English subjects when we were in school. So I liked that. And later when I got to university, I thought I didn't like math that much, but I started taking statistics and I loved the topic. And I found that quite interesting. So I would say those two are my top subjects.
That's pretty wide, though, from English all the way to statistics.
Well, the reason why is because it's a math that allows you to tell a story. Mm. And you could take, these different formulas and really tell a story, where some other math is just abstract.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very logical explanation, Brenda.
Thank you.
So name one thing that drives you crazy.
The one thing that drives me crazy is people who don't do their homework, in essence. Mm-hmm. Is that they tell you they'll do something and they don't do it, or they have, unreasonable expectations. So those are pretty much the two things that drive me crazy. Like when a capture manager doesn't really do the capture they're supposed to and kind of leaves the rest of the proposal team holding the bag. Or someone doesn't do their assignment and lets the team down. So that would be the one thing that drives me crazy.
So what's the most unusual fear you have?
Snakes. I do not like snakes. I think that a lot of people have that fear too. So if I saw a snake in my house, I would not be happy.
That's so true.
I'm not so sure if that's unreasonable, right? Maybe that's a very reasonable fear.
True. Yes. What superpower would you most like to have?
My superpower would be to really increase kindness in the world. So if everyone could treat each other with respect and kindness, that would be my number one superpower.
That's very beautiful, Brenda. So right. If someone made a movie of your life, would it be a drama, a comedy, a romantic comedy, an action film, or science fiction? Or what genre will it be?
It would have to be a comedy. The comedy of errors, maybe. And the comedy of lessons learned. I think that's what it would have to be, a comedy.
That's brilliant. So what title would you give to your movie?
What not to do. Probably lessons learned from hard knocks, something like that.
What not to do, legendary title. So
right.
We normally ask this question, with different names. So if you were a CEO, or if you were a president, or if you were anybody, in your case, let's change it to, if you were the Miss World, what would your message for aspiring models be?
I think my message to them would be to, once again, to show kindness and respect to people, to make sure people are heard, and not to take a book at its face value. I think many times in the proposal profession, we really get to dig down and hear people's stories, hear what customers want. And even though sometimes it's weird or unrealistic, it's listening to people, treating them with respect, making sure they're heard, and making sure you accurately communicate their message, if so, to others.
So this is by far the fastest rapid fire questions we have in recent times, Brenda.
Well, as a proposal person, you really have to be quick at your job. You have to, think about it, give really quick answers, and hopefully they're good answers and respectful answers. And they've hit the nail on the head.
Yes, 100%. 100% you did. Very well done. Because I actually asked you 6 more than what we normally ask. So you did.
Well, give me one more.
One more? Okay. If you were
I've done them all? Okay.
No, I can get.
Sorry.
If you were attending a Halloween party, what would the costume be and why?
What would my costume be? I'd probably be a ghost, maybe, because that way you can really look at everything that's going on and kind of, blend in and be invisible a little bit, so you can really see what was going on at the Halloween party, so you could observe. So I think I'd like to be a ghost.
You happy, or do you want a few more?
Sure, bring them.
So yes, how would the world be if it was filled with male and female copies of you?
Oh, how would the world be? Hopefully, we get along well, and we would be able to get along well, communicate well, and hopefully prosper. And we would work really hard. And that's what I think we would do.
That's so beautiful. I just thought about the previous response, and I couldn't stop laughing, because when I asked the previous question to one of our attendees, he just said, the world will end in 5 minutes.
I like that one. That's really cute.
And you were much more, soft-hearted. That's quite brilliant. So if you were held at a gunpoint and told that if you didn't impress them with your dance moves, you would be killed, what dance moves would you bust out?
Tap dance. Because I think you could just keep tapping all the time. Yeah. So you just have to keep tap dancing. Yeah. So that's the only thing I can think of.
Wow, that's very good. So if you were arrested with no explanation, what would your friends and family assume that you have done?
Well, my family and friends think I did. Probably said something I shouldn't have said. Probably mouthed off to a police officer or said something and just got me sent right to the slammer. So they would say, keep your mouth shut, and they probably would come and bail me out.
I hardly see you getting into trouble, Brenda. No way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I think even if you get into trouble, the way you approach with your laugh and your smile and with your kindness, I don't think anybody will be offended. So don't worry. So,
hopefully not.
Yes. If you could eat only 3 foods for the rest of your life, what would they be?
Cake, and cake. And that's given that I would never gain weight from this. It would be cake. It would be birthday cake with that super sweet icing and, all of those, cheerful messages written all over it. I used to remember, my mother was not a baker. She's very slim and she does not like to eat at all. So the only time we would get cake probably is for our birthdays. And she'd go to the bakery and buy this really nice, pretty, cake. It was all flowers and things like that. So it was a huge treat. And to this day, whenever I get a birthday cake, I'm so impressed. So it would have to be cake.
That's good. So we'll move to the last 2. So what's the most courageous thing you have ever done in your life?
I think stand up for people when you know something I'm not talking about the proposal industry right now. Just trying to stand up when you know that something is not right. And it might not be popular thing to do. You might get yourself in trouble. But I think just standing up for what is right when someone might be overworked, or you hear an executive that's saying something they should not really say, or maybe saying it in a very boorish tone, I think it would be to really stand up for what is right.
Standing for something is a courageous thing. That's amazing. So the last one, if you could be a cartoon character, who would you be?
Maybe the Road Runner, because the guy ran fast all over. So I'd like to have that power to just zip, 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 zip all over. So I think that would be really fun.
Yes, I can.
They cover a lot of ground that way.
Oh, that's brilliant. So this is by far being the best random rapid fire question round so far in our podcast, I would say.
Okay. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
And it was you were like as if you know the answer, as if you share the question. You just
I had no idea what you were going to ask me. So this has been a lot of fun. And I've listened to some of the other quite a few of the other interviews that you've done, and it's really remarkable what you're doing. I think I've learned a lot from a lot of the other people who have been on your podcast, and learned ways that I can, improve myself in the profession.
That's so nice. Thank you, Brenda. It's a real privilege for us this week, veterans like you. So let's go back and see. Who are the people who have been the most influential in your life and career?
Well, definitely, of course, I worked for Bob Lohfeld for 12 years here, and then 6 previous. So I'd say he was one of my number one mentors. I could see the professionalism that he brought, how well he was respected in the community. So he has definitely been one of my mentors, and some of the other people that I worked with who worked for him early on, like I mentioned, Maurice Sweeten and fabulous mentor. and they really helped me. They were so generous with their time and their opinions. I have a question, what would Bob do, right, under the circumstances? And sometimes I think, what would he do? Oh, when I'm asked to give an opinion immediately. So I think he's been a real mentor for me.
That's in career. How about life?
Life, my mom. My mom is a terrific businesswoman. She, despite the fact that she had young children, she went back to work. She worked with my father, and she really kind of stood up for herself in a time when women weren't really well regarded as businesswomen. I remember one time. We were at the bank, and we were all young, and we were bored, and the bank manager thought, come back and ask your husband to come back. And my mother stood up and she says, I want all my money now. And I want it now, and I want it in cash because I'm going to the bank down the street who will treat me with respect. And they said, wait a minute. I'm so sorry. And she had walked out the door, and here comes the bank manager running after her. So I think, my mom, and just the way she was wise with her business, she asked for respect, and I think I learned a lot from her.
100%. That's amazing. The inspiration normally comes from people whom we know, and it looks like a beautiful family. You have a sister who's a stand-up comedian, and you have a mom.
No, that's my sister. That's my sister-in-law. So that's my sister-in-law. My brother had the wisdom to marry someone who was very funny.
So, what is the best piece of advice you've received, and from whom?
I think it was, I could say back to Bob Lohfeld, I said, make sure that you know the customer. You don't have any business running any proposal if you don't know the customer well, and you have done all of your homework. So when I think of that, I think of taking a proposal look at the 360 of their proposal. Who is the customer? Who are their stakeholders? Who are their users? Who is the contracting officer? Of course, in my business, who are my customers? Being the accounting department or the executives, and kind of looking at that whole 360-degree view of everybody who's involved and what their wishes are, and making sure you understand that before you start to write, and to make sure that all of your writers have a unified vision of what they're doing. And if you have that, you have a really good chance of winning.
That's it. So what have you observed lately that reminded you that people are good?
I think during this whole COVID crisis, we've learned so much about so many healthcare professionals who really ultimately put their lives on the line to help those in need. And certainly in my zip code where I live, we've been very hard hit with COVID. And so many people who have been so kind to their neighbors and health professionals in our community, working with those, you just see kindness every day.
So true. So who haven't you seen or talked in a long time and hope they are doing okay?
All of my friends. I feel like I haven't talked to them in such a long time. I miss them all so much. And, I don't think we've really been out of the house now for, going on 2 months now. So, all of your friends, some neighbors you'd like to talk to. So it's been very hard, kind of staying cooped up here all the time.
100%. I mean, that's so good. I think we all are so looking forward for this whole thing to come out so that we could be normal. But
Indeed. And I think it's going to be a lot longer, especially where I live. I know many areas of the country look like they're, free and clear, but I think, along this major East Coast corridor, from Boston, DC, we're going to be down a little while longer.
Just to let you know, Brenda, I've asked you 26 questions and you answered 26 questions in 23 minutes, Brenda. This is 100% rapid fire. Thank you. Now, last few questions from Ash.
Yeah. Okay. So Brenda, looking back, what's one thing you wish you had known when you began your career?
I wish I would have known probably more about technology and the way technology took its course. I mean, we went from essentially, working on mainframe computers to client server to cloud to all of the technologies that support that. And, I wish I had known a little bit more about the path of technology just to make more informed decisions as, you're a direct charge person. And I'd kind of like to see where it's going also in the next few years too, as things change so rapidly, and a little bit more about artificial intelligence and how that's going to help private industry and how writing proposals about that will affect our industry.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's kind of one of the unknowns, and I think it has huge potential, and it'll definitely be interesting to see, how that plays out.
Mm-hmm.
What's one common myth about our profession that you want to debunk?
I would say common myth about I think that you have to. We aren't administrative people. We aren't secretaries. We aren't. Many of the people who come to this profession have other credentials. They have other specialties, and it takes a lot to write a winning proposal. This is not something that you can get out of a cookbook. Mm-hmm. You have to understand the customer. You have to understand what their technology or their industry is. You have to come with that understanding. So you have to be able to build a story. You have to be able to present a story that you're going to make a profit on. So it's a very, very thoughtful profession that takes a lot of disciplines into consideration. So I think that's what people should know about this profession. I know sometime in private industry, you have people who create proposals, and basically it's just fill in the blank. We're putting a product out, and we'll fill in the terms and conditions about the product, and we'll put a price on it, and we'll slap our proposal together and send it out. Well, there's so many different degrees of proposals. You can do something like that at the very easiest level proposal, or you could be writing proposals to send a satellite into space for NASA and answering some really difficult sample problems. So I think that this profession has a wide swath, mm-hmm. and that some of the people who are doing it are really, highly skilled professionals. So that's what I would comment on.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not administrative, and it really does take that understanding of the customer to really create those winning proposals.
Mm-hmm.
So our final question for you is, what's next? What are you looking forward to in the future?
I'm actually looking forward to working with customers on more of a strategic basis and helping them take their BNP or dollars or their capture dollars and using them to their best advantage. Any given company is going to only have so much money that they can put towards bid and proposals or capture, because your because you have to keep that number at a certain rate in order to be profitable against your competitors. And how can you take that pool of money that is very dear, and how can you maximize that and get your biggest return on investment? And that's either through, bidding the right jobs, making sure your proposal group works as effectively as possible with those resources, making sure that you have, your past performance in all set, and just making sure you have all of the policies and the tools geared just so that you're realizing the maximum return on your investment. Because even, let's say, if you're sloppy a few times, that could cause you to, maybe not even bid on something because you can't afford it. And that really has a huge consequence for the company. They might be able to win another sizable job, offer their employees more opportunity. So it would be helping business really maximize their, the return on investment through proposals.
Oh, wow, that's amazing, and such a critical aspect of business development. Is
there any part of your life or career, Brenda, that we haven't touched that maybe we could revisit for a few minutes?
Trying to think. I'm just trying to think off the top here. I don't know if we haven't. I think we've pretty much got everything. Nope, there's nothing I can think of.
Nope. Okay, thank you, Brenda. So
this is just one of the shorter interviews, right?
No, I think we covered a lot. As a content, I think this is much more packed. If you could date any celebrity, who would it be and why?
Oh, I would date the Property Brothers on HGTV, because I'd like them to come in and redo my house. Okay, that was an easy one, because, one of them could help you with style. The other one could help you with construction. I love watching them. So I could have a double date, right? This is both of them.
Oh, that's amazing. I think with that note, Brenda, let's sign off. So,
okay. Maybe that's too much information. All right. Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure talking with you too.
Exactly, Brenda. So thank you so much for your time. It's really nice to have you with us at Scribble Talk. So wish you, family, loved ones, all the good health and happiness, and stay kind, stay strong, stay happy, and please continue to inspire bid and proposal industry colleagues around you and everybody around you, Brenda. Thank you so much for today.
All right, you too. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Brenda. To our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Please visit batchyscribble.com/podcast to listen to this episode and check out any of our other previously recorded episodes. If you've enjoyed today's interview, don't forget to subscribe, review, and share the Scribble Talk podcast. We hope you'll check out our next episode where we interview another industry expert and special guest. Until then, it's Ashley Kays,
Bhaskar Sundram,
signing off.